And that's why we do this particular show, this particular segment, to get that information on the backside and read between the lines. So let's talk about Penn State head coach James Franklin. There was some people reading text of this exchange from Franklin that had some thoughts about what the running back conversation might be. So this is a longer first comment. This is James Franklin asked about Nick Singleton's progress and the run game as a whole.
Yeah, just like I mentioned to you guys about Kaytron's offseason, I think you're seeing it, right? You're seeing what we talked about, obviously his ability to go the distance, be explosive. His yards per carry, are as impressive as anybody in the country. And obviously, he's earned that. He's earned that right to be a guy that we want to get the ball into his hands as much as we possibly can. We also recognize what Nick Singleton's done over his career. And I think we talked, maybe a week ago just about, Nick has worked really hard this offseason on some things in terms of open field running and some different tools and weapons. But on Saturdays, I want him to go let it rip and play fast and powerful and explosive, which is his style. He's a downhill, full speed back. And on Saturdays, I want him to do that. So I think you're going to see that from him as well. He's been too successful for too long here at Penn State. Has had a great career, and that will continue. So I think it's a combination of him trying to be a perfect back, and you're never going to be a perfect back.
So just on time perfectly. Stephen Light in the chat says, I think it's clear that Allen is the lead back at this time for Franklin. Hope Andy Kolnicki takes that fully into account. So people hear what James Franklin just said and said, oh, it's clear that that Kaytron Allen is now the top running back for Penn State. You buy that? Is that what you heard in that answer, Nate?
That is definitively not what I heard.
Yeah. So why? what is the reason for that?
Okay. So when he says he's been too successful for too long at Penn State, right? Had a great career. That is to me the full-throated endorsement of look, like people's performances go in waves, and that has been true of Nick's career, that has been true of Drew's career, that has been true of Kaytron's career.
Yep.
Right. It's ups and downs. It happens. And so he provided the explanation of both players, right? This is why Kaytron looks really good right now, because all the stuff that they talked about throughout the offseason being important to Kaytron is coming to fruition. The things that Nick, quote unquote, worked really hard on, right? All offseason, have not come to fruition yet, but he's trying to implement those things. And Franklin is very clearly saying, stop trying to implement those things. Just go be you. Go be you. Go be you. And there is this dual reality of an acknowledgement, right, on the front side that Kaytron is playing better than Nick, and that Nick is going through these challenges right now. And the backside of they need both. They both have to be playing at their best to win this game. This notion that, all right, whatever it was, right, 50-50 or 51-49, whatever the breakdown of snaps was for them. And yes, there's a disparity in carries, but in terms of a pure snaps opportunity, it's just not, it's not going to pivot to 75-25. That's just not the reality. And
can I ask you about two things there, though?
Yeah.
So interesting subtext within that has been, I believe, Nick Singleton has been the first play starter for the last 3 games. I believe that's true. So they're both announced as starters. They both get roughly the same amount of work. If you look at the end of the game, Kaytron Allen may have a few fewer carries, but in terms of total snaps in the game, they're usually bang on close to each other. Is there anything to read into? Because these guys are competing in practice every single day for the 51-49, for the 55-45. Like, there is part of this dynamic has been a mutually beneficial competition to make each other better. And Nick Singleton, it feels like right now, is pressing to round out his game and be a complete back because Kaytron Allen has also elevated his game. But yet we've seen Singleton take the start in these past 3 games. And generally, I feel like he has been the starter in terms of who is on the field first for a good number of these games stretching back to last year. Do you read anything into that? And does that change? Because I think even that would be signal of, obviously now Kaytron's the running back one if he's the guy that takes the first snap against Oregon, regardless of how the rest of the game goes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember last year, and I apologize for being unprepared on this one, but I think they may have traded some starts towards the beginning of the season, maybe, and then Nick became the except obviously when he was hurt,
when he was banged up,
in October. So like this idea of who is the first one on the field, that could change, sure. But just in terms of general touches, like, again, I go back to something that Franklin said it may have been the first week of the season about touches, right? This is the important thing for Penn State. And with Nick specifically, well, it's 2 things, right? With Kaytron, it's touches because you can rely on that 5 yards. Right,
he's
anywhere
going
between 5 and 10 yards. He's going to get you that just about every time. Literally, just about every time he touches the ball.
And a positive, sorry, you nailed it. I was just going to say, no matter what, he's going to get you a positive play, even if the play in front of him is a negative one.
Totally, and that there is absolute value in that. There is also, and I understand where fan sentiment is on this. I get that you're going to recoil when I say this. Nick's ability to go for 80 has not changed.
Yeah.
Right. I just watched, the condensed highlights of last year's Oregon game. You know who was really good in that game? Nick Singleton.
Would that be Nick Singleton?
But guess what? So was Kaytron Allen. Right. But they both did what they do, the things that they do. Kaytron with 20-yard carries, Nick breaking off a couple of 30-yarders. But this Nick involved in the passing game, which has not been a feature so far this year. Like, I just think all of those things not necessarily have been minimized in the first few weeks, like that conversation that Franklin had about hiding stuff, which we'll get to. Yeah. I just don't think that all of the things that have made Singleton as good as he has been, right? We've seen it.
Yes.
There's video evidence of it. It is very hard to remember, I think, for certain people right now. But that player is still there. And I think this combination of Nick not being at his best and Kaytron being at his best, Penn State is banking on Nick joining that conversation and doing so post haste. Like it has to happen, and it has to happen now.
Week. Yeah, and Rob says, I said this before, be happy with 8 yards. Don't be disappointed it's not 18 or 28. I think the nuance and the text here, Rob, is that in the first 3 games, there was an expectation that those 8-yard runs, if he breaks a tackle, become 18-yard runs. In this game now, yes, be very happy with an 8-yard run. At the same time, you're not going to get the same push from the offensive line that you did against Villanova. So those 8-yard runs are not going to be just falling out of your pockets the same way. That's the concern is now when now it needs to be an 8-yard run when it might be a 4-yard run or a 3-yard run. That's the next level in competition, and the assurance that you saw you got to see some of this stuff from Nick Singleton. You wanted to see some of this, and the same thing with the passing game. You wanted to see some success here so that you felt like they had taken that step and they are their final form. They've evolved to the final Pokemon they're going to be before they go off to the NFL. And like, I I don't think you would say that that has happened yet. And that's the consternation here with Nick Singleton. And I think, Nate is right to point out that part of that is the thinking process instead of the playing process for Singleton. So this one directly relates to that other one. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, he did what he did in that game last year, that Oregon game last year, without making a man miss in the open field. The stuff that they worked on all off season. Would it be nice? Would it be excellent for Nick's career, for Penn State football, for him to become that? Absolutely, yes. There is a reason why they spent all that time doing that. He doesn't have to be that. Not right now.
We'll get to a little bit more of this, I think, later in the show. Some of the stuff that you wrote about the bye week progress and the offensive update. So there's layers to this conversation that are ongoing when it comes to where Singleton is in this order and how everyone feels. But the bottom line being they're going to need both of these guys in this game and for the rest of the season.